in progress. So if anybody else wants to join us, they're obviously welcome. We'll let them in. I'm not going to keep anybody out. But, since it's just the two of us, we can just have kind of a conversation about the topic, if that's good. And since people may watch this, Daryn, that don't familiar with you, I would just kind of introduce yourself a little bit, where you're from, and why you came to talk today.
Okay. My name is Daryn Watson. I am currently living in Cary, North Carolina. I was born and raised in Alberta, Canada. And in 1991, I moved to Austin, Texas for 30 years. And my wife, Christina, and I moved to North Carolina 3.5 years ago. I'm a Canadian domestic infant adoptee, and I've known Patty for about 5 years now, and um, learning about the principles and three principles, and wanting to learn more about anxiety and how that works within our minds, and how to live a more happy and healthier life, not stuck in anxiety or depression, things like that.
Would you say that you have issues or struggle with anxiety?
I do. I think a lot of it stems from adoption, but learning from the three principles, I think I realize that a lot of it is my own inner thinking and where I am in my own state of mind and how I perceive the world and deal with the world.
So I think that for the most part, anxiety, because anxiety is not a thing, like we can all agree this is a pair of glasses, but anxiety is different to different people. So that's what I mean by it's not a thing. It's kind of, we all have our own concept of it, what it is and how it affects us. So how would you describe that, Daryn? How would you describe anxiety? Well, how does it show up for you?
When things happen in my life where I feel overwhelmed, I start to feel anxious. I want to shut down or go to sleep or leave the situation because it seems unmanageable to me. It seems very overwhelming and chaotic. And when I get into that mode of thinking or feeling, then I get fearful that I can't do what needs to be done or is asked of me.
Got it. So if you had to use one word to describe what anxiety is, and what I mean by that is, I'm going to try and not give you the answer that I'm looking for, because I'm not looking for an answer. I don't want it to make it seem like I am. Would you describe it as a feeling, as an experience, as something else?
I think it's more of an experience of fear and feeling overwhelmed and wanting to run away from it.
Yeah.
Not address it, hoping the feeling goes away.
Got it. So it's an experience of a feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And me too. So that makes it look like I was trying to point you toward an answer. I really wasn't. But I think it's easy to misinterpret the question. So try to be specific. So where would you say, and you've been, like you said, you've been kind of looking in the direction of the principles for a little while. And I'm going to share a little video that explains a little bit about the principles.
Oh,
I just heard this morning and I think it's really good. So I think it might be helpful for people. But before we get there, you've had some experience with the principles. So you're not coming into this blind. You've got a little understanding under your belt. So your answer may be different from people who have not been exposed to the principles, is what I'm trying to get at. So the question I will ask is, where does it seem to you like anxiety comes from for Daryn?
it comes from my own um, thinking, my own basement, low level thinking. I can get very negative. I can um, negative, critical, and not really having space to enjoy life. And if something isn't the way I want it, then I usually spend a lot of time and energy trying to change it, control it, so it comes to the way I think it should be. And a
Yeah,
lot of that manifests at work with my
gotcha,
job as well.
gotcha. No, I laugh because that control thing, man, we love to control, we humans, and we love it the way we want it.
Yes.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Now that being said, that, you kind of see that it comes from your own thinking. You're what I'm hearing you say is you do recognize to a degree that you're creating it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Does it always look like you're creating it?
Um, I think a lot of the time it is because of my how I perceive something happening or my interpretation of it. And if it doesn't fit the way I want things to be, then yeah, it does come from me a lot of the time.
A lot of the time.
Most of the time, or maybe not, maybe close to all, but I I know it's I have a big contributing factor to my own state of mind based on
Yeah.
my thinking.
Yeah. I mean, for me, there are times that it does not look like it's coming from me. It looks like it comes from the thing someone said, or it looks like it's coming from having too much to do at work, or it looks like it comes from not having enough money in my bank account and a bill is due.
Hmm.
So there are times that that's exactly where it looks like anxiety comes from. And so for me, that desire to control that, change it, make it the way I want it to, just like you said, will give me that feeling of overwhelm. So when we're sitting here having a conversation about it, you can say, oh, yeah, I can see how that's coming from me. I can say that too. But in the moment when I'm in the thick of it, doesn't look that way at all. Doesn't look that way at all. Looks like that feeling of overwhelm is coming from someone else, somewhere else. It's only in hindsight when I'm getting out of it or I've gotten out of it that I can look and say, oh, yeah, I can see where I was winding myself up,
Yeah.
but I can't see it in the moment. And when I came into this community, into this understanding, I got into a lot of beating myself up because I couldn't, like, I understand this. I shouldn't feel overwhelmed. And I came to realize rather recently, actually, that no, understanding how it works doesn't mean it just stops working that way.
Mhm.
It just means that you can catch on quicker.
Yeah.
You catch on quicker and you drop it faster. So we're doing a really great job of talking about overwhelm, but not everybody experiences anxiety as overwhelm. I know that I was admitted to the hospital twice years ago for panic attacks. I didn't know they were panic attacks. I thought I was having heart attacks. I thought I was dying. I thought I was having a heart attack. I thought I was dying. I thought all kinds of things, which brought it all on even stronger. But that felt like heart palpitations. That felt like um, tension and pain in my chest. Didn't feel like overwhelm. It felt scary because I didn't know what was going on. And again, in hindsight, I can look back and say, oh, wow, I wound myself up by doing a lot of really fast thinking to the point that I got to a panic attack. And I think for some people, that's how anxiety looks. It's beyond overwhelm. Have you ever had any experience like that?
Yeah, I have. Probably a few times in my life, not where I felt I needed to go to the hospital, but um, when I've had with my reunion, my birth mother, and with my son, a couple of times I felt really overwhelmed. And one of the times is when I contacted his mother almost 30 years ago, and I hadn't been in her life for several years. And we had a short conversation, but I was up all night processing and just going into thinking so much and couldn't sleep. And um, it took a couple of days to get kind of regulated after that. And in hindsight, I built up so much negative thinking about myself up to that moment that it's no wonder that happened the way it did
Right.
internally.
What was your internal experience? And I don't mean your mind, I mean your body. What was the feeling? And the reason I'm just pointing this out is so that I, I think it's really helpful. Like when I facilitate grief support groups, it's really helpful for people to see they're not the only ones.
Mhm.
And so that's why I was kind of describing how it felt to me. Um, because we're all human here, and it's helpful just to see who get that resonance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I cried a lot. And I remember the next day I asked a friend to pray for me because it felt like a relief in one way, but it was also kind of like a dam opening up emotionally. Um, and when I spoke to my son last time I was in Canada, I felt I owed him an apology for not being in his life, and not being a good dad for him or not being there, and I apologize for how that affected him, and he deserved better. And after we talked, I went back to my car and I started crying again. I felt the grief coming, but I recognized it, and it only lasted a few minutes. It
Mm.
wasn't all night and or extended, but it also apologizing to him. I think it was helpful because he deserved an apology, and he thanked me for that, and I was grateful he was able to listen to me, and he wrote back his response, and so at the time it was very helpful, um, and knowing that it wasn't going to last, the feeling, um, that was a good thing too, because I understood it.
How did you know it wouldn't last? And the reason I ask that question is sometimes when you're in really low mood thinking, it feels like it's going to last forever. At least for me, it does.
I recognize how it felt, um, from when I first talked to his mother, and also going through several rejections from my birth mother, that I might be in a low mood right now, but I know from my experience, if I try to numb my feelings instead of feeling them and releasing them, then it's going to extend the, the suffering and, and the feeling of being anxious.
That's
And
such,
and,
oh, sorry.
and I've read, if we let our feelings of uncomfortableness, instead of trying to numb them out with food, drugs, alcohol, sex, whatever, if we let them pass through us, it can take maybe 2 minutes or less for that feeling to dissipate. But it took me a long time to recognize that. And I think for a lot of people, once we feel triggered, I know you don't care for that word, but once we feel uncomfortable or some anxiousness coming on, we try to avoid those feelings as almost all cost. And when we understand how our thinking is inside out, instead of our, the world is causing us to what we think and feel, um, we can allow almost to be willing to explore those sensations in our body. We feel uncomfortable. Where is this coming from? It feels familiar. Why is, what happened, in the past, or what are we thinking about that keeps bringing this up? And by allowing that, it doesn't mean we're stuck in grief all the time, or in basement thinking, but we recognize that we can move past that, and it's not okay. I'm finally healed. It doesn't work that way.
Why not?
Um, because we're always going to be up and down with our experience and our thinking. We can't control our thinking, but we can recognize that it comes from within us, and we can choose to focus on that, or we can choose to quiet down and allow ourselves to be open to insights and choose to do something else with our thinking.
So first of all, I want to address triggered.
Okay.
I know it sounds like I don't like that word. The thing about triggered for me
Hmm.
is memory itself works through, gets activated. Memory gets activated. We have some thinking about it. We have an experience of it.
Hmm.
That's it. That's all. It's very, very rudimentary in that way, right? And it's interesting that when we have good memories and good experiences, we never say we were triggered. But when we have something happens that activates a bad memory and we have a bad experience, then we use the word triggered. And for me, when we use that word triggered, we make it into a thing that we then have to cope with and deal with and manage, as opposed to recognizing, oh, it's just a memory, like any other memory.
Yeah.
It just makes it more solid. That's the only reason that I don't, but I still find myself using it from time to time, partially because other people use it. So
Yeah.
it's a recognized word, and partially because it just comes to mind and I say it. But that is why I kind of tweak a little bit every time triggered gets used, just because it's like, oh, you're almost making it harder for it to go away. And that's a really good kind of segue into anxiety. Um, it's like triggered, you're identifying, you're personalizing the experience.
Hmm.
I got triggered, I was triggered. Um, and again, this is not a prescription. People don't have to listen to me, of course. But it's always an invitation to just notice when you use that word, are you identifying with the experience? Are you personalizing it? And if you are, is that making it a little more difficult for that feeling, that experience to go away? And just see what you see, right? Like just notice it.
Hmm.
So that's my spiel on triggered. Um, but it is a good segue into just kind of how human experience works in general. And that was one of the things I wanted to kind of explore was how human experience gets um, created. And the mainstream theory that I know of and that I thought up until 5 years ago was that human experience gets created by what happens outside of me, what happens to me. And if it's something I like, great. If it's not something I like, not so good. Somebody did something to me, somebody said something, did something, and it created an experience for me. And I always, and in that point, I'm trying to change the world around me so that I can have a better experience. I don't like what you said, so I need you to not say that again, or I need you to apologize so I can feel better. That's what I mean by that, like the outside. And if my ex-husband had said something I didn't like or did something I didn't like, I needed him to stop because I didn't recognize the power of the mind to create thought and create experience out of that thought. I didn't know it. I didn't see it. I didn't have any idea that that's what was happening. So being introduced to these very basic principles of how human experience works through being alive, being aware, and thinking has been a game changer to me, because in the moments that I think the world needs to change in some way, when I wake up to the fact that I'm doing that,
Hmm.
usually by how it feels, then I can go, oh, wait a minute, that's not that's me. I'm creating this experience through how I'm thinking about it. So what we're considering here is that human experience, no matter what experience a human has, happiness, joy, love, um, anxiety, stress, grief, any of it can only ever come from whatever we happen to be thinking in the moment, as opposed to what's happening outside of us. Does that make sense at all?
Yeah.
Have you seen that in your life? I mean, what you've said up until this point, it seems that you have.
Yeah, I have. Um, and I'm recognizing that, a lot of times, most of the time, my own thinking is creating a scenario in my head where I, I feel justified in being angry, or I feel I'm right and they're wrong, and I gotta change it and fix it.
Yeah.
And it it's kind of a vicious emotional squirrel cage to be caught up in it.
Mhm.
Because it could be different situations, but this experience inside still feels the same.
What do you mean by that?
Um, like if I'm upset about something at work, or if I'm upset about our neighbors or something, those are different circumstances. But my internal experience is still the same.
Mm. So what does that tell you?
But I'm the common denominator.
Man, that's a tough one to admit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Ah, don't love that. Don't love that. But I was thinking about this morning as I was actually making my bed. Like it's really tough sometimes to let go of a story and take responsibility.
Yeah.
And yet, when we take responsibility, so much falls away. So much of what we're holding on to and creating falls away.
Yeah.
Like, for example, what was I thinking about this morning? Let's see if I can bring it back into focus. I'll be honest, I was thinking about a client,
Okay.
and this person has a goal. I'm not going to share the goal because it's not up to me to do that, but they have a goal. And they are convinced that there's a lot of things in the way of them getting to said goal. Really, the only thing that's keeping them from their goal is what they're doing or not doing. You're either doing the thing you need to do to get to your goal or you're not. But they have a lot of thinking and a lot of lists about why they're not getting there and why it's other people's fault.
Excuses.
Yeah, well, but it's reality. It's real to them.
Yeah.
So we have to question, is that really what's keeping you from taking the next step? And sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is no. You see it or you don't. So I
Hmm.
think in the case of anxiety, people that have a lot of anxiety, they have a lot of thinking. I know I did, had a lot of thinking, very messy, always in my head, thinking, but we don't realize it. And we don't like the think, we don't like that feeling. So we try to do something to mitigate the feeling, make it go away, as you were saying a minute ago.
Hmm.
When it's either we're overthinking or we're not. We drop the thought or we don't. But if it looks like something's creating anxiety, like getting on this call, for instance, if someone wanted to get on the call and they didn't, if they looked closely, they might notice they had a lot of thinking about being on the call. What will we talk about? Will I like it? What will people think of me? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I don't understand? I mean, I don't know. I'm making it up, right? That might keep them from getting on the call. You say, well, why didn't you get on the call? Because I had anxiety. Well, where did the anxiety come from? From getting on the call. No.
Your thoughts about getting on the call.
Right. Right. And the minute humans see that, it shifts, it changes. At least that's my experience of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you brought up a really good point earlier about, human experience goes up and down. So for me, getting free from anxiety is seeing, really seeing that, oh, I'm creating this innocently. It's not happening to me, it's coming from me. Really getting a handle on the thinking that's happening in your mind
Yeah.
and recognizing the connection between the thinking and the feeling.
Yeah. Um, that happened to me on Friday when I found out I was put on the schedule to work 6 days in a row, and I spent a lot of the day being upset about it until I talked to my manager, store manager, then when she came in the afternoon to work, and because I was given the impression that she put me on the schedule to work today, which I had scheduled off, and she said, "Well, who put you on the schedule?" I thought, "Well, you did," and she didn't. But I said, "I have things scheduled," and she said, "Well, you don't have to come in then."
And
So
then what happened?
then I felt relieved, and I felt happier about it.
And
So,
and
but all the story went away about, you know, I'm not working 6 days in a row. This is bullshit. I can't, my body can't take this. All the narrative fell away,
yes,
but I held on to that through a lot of the day because that's what I thought was going to happen.
yeah, that was so beautifully said. The narrative went away. Because I think that, a lot of people might say, well, I felt better after my boss said I didn't have to work. And then it looks like the boss saying you don't have to work is what makes you feel better.
Mm,
But what you're pointing to is, nope, everything I was holding on to, everything I was thinking just went poof. No more thinking, no more feeling. And that is so cool because honestly, that's what's happening all day long, don't you think?
yeah,
We have some thinking about something and then we don't. And then we have some thinking about something and then we don't. And that's the up and down that you were pointing to earlier. It's not that we'll never feel anxiety again. because we're human, but we don't have to get stuck in it. We don't have to inadvertently, innocently make it worse. Poor Daryn is sleepy.
Right.
Is it me, Daryn? Do I put you to sleep?
No.
Oh gosh. So I had a whole thing planned out, but being as it's just us having a conversation, I won't get into all the details. But what I'd love to know is up until this point, have you seen anything different through this conversation, or does it seem like what you already knew?
I think I know a lot of it, but it's good to hear it again. And because each time I'm on a call with you, there's always another insight or nugget that comes up, or it's presented in a different way that I may not have heard before.
Mm. So what would you say to somebody who is really not liking the feeling of anxiety, really doesn't like it, really wants to get rid of it, wants, the how to get rid of it? What would you say to them?
I would have probably asked them why it bothers them so much. What what's behind the feeling? What's the worst thing that can happen in your mind if you feel uncomfortable about a situation? Instead of avoiding it like the plague, look at it as a opportunity to explore what's going on inside of you and why it's affecting you so much. It's like Dr. Bill Pettit says, it's when he talks about panic attacks, to him that's an invitation to or a wake-up call about something's off balance or something's not right. But it's also an opportunity to explore what why you're being affected by something so much. And he calls it chronic mental stress is the one thing that affects us instead of having hundreds of different disorders that we could be diagnosed as.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say in that, and I've, heard Dr. Pettit talked about this too, but chronic mental stress is what creates mental illness.
Yeah.
And it can show up a lot of different ways, not just anxiety.
Hmm.
I'm also hearing you say that if people look closer, they'll see it happening in real time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
And it doesn't mean it won't affect us, but the more we recognize it, um, I think the effects of it don't last as long or as much. And we can begin to see, it coming from our own mind.
Yeah,
Maybe we get activated physically with something, or a sensation pops up, and then we attribute to a experience in our past, a memory,
right.
and maybe the first time we experienced that, it really affected us. So if we can recognize, okay, this is from the past, it's not happening right now, but I'm keeping it alive in my mind, then it's not gonna keep a big hold on us like it may have done in the past. Or we can begin to release it and be open and have room to live a happier and healthier life, not stuck in our basement negative low level mood thinking.
Yeah, Dr. Pettit talks about it's Dr. Pettit. I don't remember who it was. Recently heard it. The feeling never lies. We get feelings in our bodies because our bodies are trying to tell us what's happening in our minds. Because quite frankly, we live in our minds.
Yeah.
Right? We're always thinking, there's always thought going on. I mean, try to stop thinking for 10 seconds. Good luck. Which comes back to what you said a little bit ago. You can't control your thinking. And yeah, I agree. You can't control the flow. You can't control the next thought that pops into your head. You can kind of play around with what you're thinking and maybe redirect yourself a little bit. But all in all, you can't really control the next thought that pops in your head. It just happens. But we'll feel it. And the more we grab onto a thought and add more thinking to it, the more we're going to feel it. So the feeling is always, always, always just trying to wake us up to what we're doing up here. It's like, there are thoughts that go through our heads like, oh yeah, I got to do some laundry today. I need to do the dishes. Oh yeah, I need to run to the post office. We don't really, it's in and it's out. Maybe I need to write it down. No big deal. But then there'll come that thought, you screwed up on that report yesterday. You screwed up on that report yesterday. And now your boss is going to be mad. And you never do anything right. And you suck at this job. And someday they're going to fire you. Right? Like it just gets big.
The thought stacking.
Thought stacking, exactly. But we don't recognize that all of that thought is made of the same exact material as, oh yeah, I got to go to the post office. We just take it really seriously and we hold on to it. And the more we hold on to it, the more apt we are to get a sensation from it. So Dr. Pettit, it's like every feeling is on your side, even anxiety. Anxiety is on your side because it's a feeling telling you that you've got some really fast, really worried, nervous thinking going on. Time to wake up to that.
Yeah.
And Dr. Pettit also talks about the system is so intelligent. And I've had this goes back to the experience I was talking about earlier about the hospital. The system is so amazingly intelligent and loves us so much that if we don't wake up to the feeling of anxiety, it says, okay, well, maybe you'll wake up to a panic attack. And that really struck something in me. Like it didn't sound like a good idea. Like I really saw it because I could look at my past experiences, I think, and say, oh yeah, I did that. I see how that happened. I see how I built that up in my head to the point that the body said, all right, panic attack. And so when I hear people talk about panic attacks, they're very afraid of them. What if I have a panic attack? And I get it. I do. I absolutely get it. And I used to fear the same thing until I realized, I really saw that, oh, that's my body's way of saying, stop. Stop what you're doing in your mind. Just stop. It's kind of like what just popped into my head was, if you've a parent to a small child and you go shopping and the child wants a toy and you say no. And the child keeps begging and you keep saying no. Well, the begging gets into crying and the crying gets into a temper tantrum. If the child just stopped when you said no, we would have never escalated.
Right.
But he or she just keeps having all those thoughts. And they went from asking to begging to pleading to, meltdown. And it's not a problem per se, it's just a misunderstanding. Because to that child, it really looks like they're having a temper tantrum because you won't let them have that toy, because they want that toy. And they don't realize that what's really happening is they're building it up. Does that make any sense at all?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we do it too. And we do it without even realizing we're doing it, which is why our bodies are like, knock, knock, knock. This feeling you're having, it's information. It's an invitation to back off, slow down, let it go.
It reminds me of when I met my brother Aaron for the first time, and I was driving him back to the family farm. We stopped in the town he grew up in, and there was this one general store. We walked in, got some food, and as we were walking to the car, I felt grief coming. And I'd recognize it from being in reunion with my birth mother. And we both opened our doors. He got on the passenger side. I knelt down beside the driver's seat and I said, I'm sorry, I need a minute. And I just allowed myself to grieve. And I was grieving all the years I never had known my brother. And I knew if I stuffed my grief, it wouldn't have been a healthy thing. But I felt like I need to get this out. And thankfully he was able to give me space and he said, I don't know what you're going through, but it's okay. And that meant a lot to me. Um, 'Cause after a couple of minutes, the grief went away and got back in the car and got back on the road. And it's much easier and healthier to me to do that than trying to stuff it and avoid it.
And how long ago was that, Daryn?
That was February, March of 2011, 14 years.
14 years. And you are beautifully demonstrating right now how the human experience works. You're thinking about that situation that happened 14 years ago, and you're having feelings about it. You're feeling that thinking. First of all, thank you for sharing the story and being open enough to share, but also demonstrating exactly the point we're trying to make. And as soon as the thinking is gone, the story is gone, you're in a different space.
Yeah.
It's funny how sometimes we see it and sometimes we don't. Like, just thinking about that makes me mad. Yeah. As if that's like a one-off situation. Thinking about that makes me mad. Right. And in the situation, the way you were thinking created mad. And it will continue to do so as long as you keep thinking it in the same way. Yeah. I don't know. So for me, getting free from anxiety is just getting free from the idea that it's not getting free from the idea that it's happening to me, and recognizing that It's not happening to me, it's coming from me. And
Mhm.
there's nothing, and to your beautiful point, just there, that whole thing, just watching you go through that, there's nothing you have to do about it. There's no solution for a feeling. When the thought goes, the feeling will go. And you described that beautifully when you were saying a little bit ago about the narrative went. The feeling you were feeling at work, when the narrative went, the feeling went. Like that's all the time. There's no exception to this rule. This is how humans work at the base level all the time. Think about something from the past. You might laugh, you might get angry, you might get upset. But as soon as it's gone, it's gone. So I loved what you talked about. You know that it's rather than stuffing it, running away from it, trying to fix it, trying to change it, just letting it go through. That's how we're built. And as often as we can see it and remember it, we will be in our mental health. Perfect mental health. That's, to my mind, that's perfect mental health, letting things come and go. Whether we're in a good mood or a low mood.
Mhm.
Does that resonate at all?
Yeah.
What else, Daryn, do you think would be good to talk about?
I think we're a good place to stop.
Okay, cool.
How about you?
No, I agree. I agree. If people do watch the recording, is there a thought you'd like to leave them with? Something either you've seen a little different today or not, or just something you'd like to share in general?
Um, I would share that there is hope for all of us, and that we aren't broken, even though we might feel that way, we might believe we are, especially if you're an adoptee. Um, you can have a happy life. You can get quiet. You don't have to live in being stuck in anxiety or feeling depressed or whatever you might have been diagnosed with. We each have a gift of thought that we can use for whatever we want. And I think, and I did this for years, um, being stuck to my story. Yes, as a newborn baby, I felt abandoned. That was an experience, but that happened to me 55 years ago. I don't have to feel that way right now, this moment. I'm safe and secure, and living more in the moment, or trying to learn to do that is how I think a way for us to heal, or that we can create a different reality for ourselves, and not being stuck in worrying about the past or the future, or what may or may not happen in the future.
Can I ask a quick question there?
Sure.
Because I'd love to hear your answer. How do you know people aren't broken? How does Daryn know that people are not broken?
Because we're all resilient, we're still here. We, I think it's um, a fantasy that we get to a point, or we think we can get to a point we're always going to be happy, and that's just not the way that our mind and the universe works. But the unhappiness, the anxiety, the depression, that doesn't have to last. And we don't have to suffer like as much as we have before.
So what I hear you saying is low mood or uncomfortable feelings are not proof of brokenness.
Right.
Yeah.
They're they're not always within our consciousness 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But the more we focus on those, then they're going to be much more apparent to us.
Yeah. I guess I have kind of a scientific, technical way of explaining how I know people aren't broken.
Okay.
And it goes back to these principles. We're alive, we're aware, and we think. And every human is creating their experience through their aliveness, their awareness, and their thought. That's how I know people aren't broken, because they're doing it exactly the way I do, the way everybody they know does. They're creating their moment to moment experience. That doesn't mean things don't happen in our lives and things don't happen to us, and we don't want to deny any of that. But there's what happens in the world, and then there's our experience of it. And all we really have is our experience. And we create that in the moment through whatever we're aware of and whatever we think about. So regardless of the feeling, like you were saying, it's not, I guess it was a question I asked, it's, low mood and those feelings are not proof of brokenness. They're proof that your mood went down. They're proof that you've got some thinking that's creating some not very good feeling experience. But
Mm.
that's all it's proof of. It's not a moral judgment or doing something good or bad or right or wrong. It's just recognizing that, oh, right now I have something's going on up there. That's not helpful. And we don't even need to know what the thought is, right?
Yeah.
Like I just heard Michael Neal ask something that I don't even think it was him. It was Rob Cook. Anyway, doesn't matter. What was said was because somebody said, sometimes I have feelings, but I don't have any thoughts. So I don't know what thought created the feeling. And they were trying to find the thought. And he asked a question. He said, well, what, how would you know the difference between a feeling without a thought and a feeling with a thought that you simply didn't recognize? And that struck me. I'm like, oh, sometimes we just don't see the thought. But if there's a feeling, there has to be a thought. So we don't need to know the thought. We just need to know that there's something going on up there,
Mm.
which is proof of wholeness to me, not brokenness. We're working perfectly. You may not like it. That's not part of the gig. You don't have to like it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that's what I would leave people with. It's just like you work perfectly. perfectly does not mean you're always going to get something you want. It just means that you're operating exactly the way you were designed to operate. You feel, you're thinking, you experience it, it passes, and you get something else. Any other last thoughts you want to leave us with, Daryn, before we say goodbye?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
All right, I'm just going to stop the recording.